Time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM.
Hello and welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. My name is Edmond Chizuto, your host. On Spectrum tonight, Uganda's current economic crisis, what can be done? The current economic challenges affecting this country dominated business in Parliament as legislators took on government in a bid to find acceptable solutions to this challenge. The country is facing troubles ranging from dwindling exports, a depreciating shilling, runaway inflation, scarcity of commodities, heightened prices, and now acute energy shortages that has forced power distributor Umeme to begin power rationing. A meeting called by the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development to seek an explanation from the Ministers of Finance and the technical people failed to take off today because the ministers were busy in an emergency meeting at State House in Entebbe today. Business in the plenary was suspended prematurely after both Ministers of Finance and that of Trade failed to show up to explain the runaway inflation and demands by the traders who have today ended their 2-day strike. However, MPs were able to convince the Speaker of Parliament to have a sitting tomorrow to specifically discuss this economic crisis. The MPs raised several issues, including the mistake by government officials and departments to transact in dollars instead of Ugandan shillings, a lack of seriousness by the line ministers, and the insensitivity of government to heed to advice and listen to demands by the people. It appears that MPs are determined to put aside politics and help the government in coming up with solutions that will help in mitigating or ending this crisis. Experts have argued that the crisis will require both short-term and long-term interventions using the monetary policy, incentives to strategic sectors, and through reallocations in the national budget, with emphasis being put on productive sectors. So tonight we'll look at what members of Parliament are doing to deal with the situation and what is required of them as an oversight body to ensure that the gains made in the economy over 20 years are not swept away by the crisis. We'll broaden it to include you, the listeners, to tell us what you think can be done in this current crisis. Our guests tonight, Honorable Albert Odhuman Okello, Managing Consultant at Terra-Firma Consult, also immediate former Shadow Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Shadow Minister, you're most welcome, Honorable.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
We're also joined by Mr. Stephen Asimwe from the Media Center to give us a perspective. You're most welcome, Mr. Asimwe.
Thank you, and good evening, listeners.
Honorable Okello, when you look at the kind of crisis that we're going through, where can we find the roots of it?
Yeah, thank you, Edmond. The economy currently is on fire. It's on fire because the people who are mandated to deal with the problem are the same people that are not scot-free. They are part of the problem as well. It's on fire, but the smoke was witnessed last year and before. And the smoke has been in the sky for some time. But the problem is that government has been living in denial. We debated this problem in Parliament, and ministers were awash with denial instincts in Parliament. You see, the problem is largely man-made. And in my view, it's avoidable and could have been avoided. The problems were committed by the very people who are charged with the stewardship of the economy. You see, the economy is like a person. You feed it, you nourish it, it's living, you feed it, and then it grows. If you prick it, it bleeds. And when it bleeds, if you don't treat it, it can die. The blood of the economy are the goods, services, and money, which keep its system alive. Now, if you interfere with that living mechanism of the economy without adequately feeding and replacing what you have removed, you find the problems we are in. You see, when we talk about inflation now, which is a big problem, we are talking about, from the basics, too much money chasing too few goods. If we deal with the two sides of the problem, we can take 2 days over it. Too much money Where does it come from? Too few goods. Why? Why are there too few goods in the country? Uganda is agro-based largely. What is happening in that sector? We need to drill into that. Too much money. Where is too much money coming from? Too much money has been injected in the economy in the past in the form of election financing, and that is evidenced by the statement that was made by the Minister of Finance in her budget speech. She said on her paragraph 37 that implementation of the current budget has experienced extra budgetary pressures arising from the needs to finance the recent general election and security-related expenditures. Now, this is an admission that there were extra budgetary pressures. Literally, government raided our consolidated fund and Bank of Uganda. They did that. They raided the treasury. Bank of Uganda looked on helplessly. This is what this means. Money not appropriated by Parliament, money not approved by the citizens of Uganda was removed from the treasury. So you have a problem where the government literally as well printed money just before the elections. I want them to come and prove to me that they did not print money. In May last year, the government introduced a move through Bank of Uganda to change our currency. And the issue was painted as urgent, very, very urgent. And they cited two reasons. One, because there is massive counterfeiting. We said in Parliament, no. There is nothing, there is no evidence in the country that there is massive counterfeiting. There might be counterfeiting, but not massive to warrant overhauling the currency in haste. So in May last year, now 1 year down the road, you still go to the bank and you are given only currency when you draw money. So the other reason was we want to internationalize the currency, to standardize in line with international standards. So those two reasons, which were given as a reason for changing the currency, have since disappeared. The urgency of changing the currency has gotten lost. That's why old money was injected back into the economy together with new money. Now, it is through that process that new money, which is not backed up by any old currency, was printed. So you have new printed money and old currency circulating together, increasing money supply. That was the money that was downloaded onto the economy. Now, that is on the money supply side. Too much money coming from where? These people thought that when you interfere with the flow of the system, the flow of money, the matter would not come up in the open. That's what they thought. But the matter cannot be kept underground, because, as I say, the economy is like a person. The moment you hurt it, it will show. The sickness will come up. That's why the economy is sick. Now, on the production side, we look at too few goods. Too few goods. What has happened to the backbone of the economy? What has happened to agriculture? What has happened to the exports? When you talk about exchange rates, we are talking about inability to export. You hear people complaining, it's because of inadequate inflows of foreign exchange, because of donors are not now remitting remittances to the country. No. We are saying we are moving out of this donor dependence. We want to be able to finance our programs ourselves. Why are we saying that lack of inflows from donors is causing this foreign currency shortages in the country, and therefore we have no way of dealing with that? So it is where the problem comes from. Inadequate focus on the backbone of the economy. Agriculture last year was allocated less than 5%. Today, this year, in this year's budget, they have given it 4.5%, and it's going to go down. It has gone down fast in just 1 year. Now, in Kenya last year, they injected about $10 billion on a program of over 10 years in Kenya. Now, $10 billion is about 25 trillion. Yes, 25 trillion over 10 years. That's about 2.5 trillion shillings per year in agriculture to deal with the problem of food security.
That would be about 25% of Uganda's economy.
Yes,
national budget.
Yeah, exactly, about 1/4. So that's where we need to go. That's where we need to put money. And when we put money there, we follow it and see that the programs we put money on are demand-driven programs,
right.
Demand-driven agricultural infrastructure programs.
Okay. Of course, some people have said there are some factors that are global in nature. You've spoken about demand, the demand side and the supply side, but we'll come back to that later. Mr. Asima, what's your reading of this crisis that we're facing today?
First of all, normally, I don't know, but I think the tragedy is the language. And I have seen it everywhere. People, when you meet people, they say a crisis.
Yes.
And I want us, before, when we leave this studio, to go and look at the dictionary, what the word crisis means. I think we have the challenges in the economy, like any other growing economy. And as you stated it, of course, I don't agree on some aspects of Honorable Odhuman, but some of the things are global. One thing you must know is that recently you had some people trying to agitate for unpopular thing of walk to work. And if
maybe before, let me cut you short a little bit. Let's first of all define this problem. I've seen about 6 items that we need to talk about. 1, interest rates are rising.
Yes.
2, inflation is very high persistently. That comes or and also leads to high fuel prices, food prices. Number 3, the shilling has weakened a great deal. Number 4, had a traders strike. That's a symptom of a problem. The first time in about 15 years. The last time they struck was in 1996.
Yes.
We are having a power shortage. We have lost 120 megawatts switched off the national grid. That's not a simple thing. That's a large percentage. And then number 6, we have a taxi driver strike coming on Monday. Those are the signs of a crisis.
Edmond, one of the roles of any government in the world is to try and sort out those challenges you have mentioned. And I want to assure you that this government, it is not the first time they have been having such challenges. Inflation, if you can ask yourself, when this government came into power, the rate of inflation in this country. Now, but you leave around that, what is current and what I want to assure people, the Minister of Trade here has talked to the traders, although they persistently closed their shops. And secondly, what I wanted to give you is the perspective of the global crisis. What you need to understand from the history. If you are a patient and you are suffering from malaria, and the next day you are caught by flu, the next day you have another small disease, and that's what we are suffering from. We are not an island. Actually, it has been mentioned in Kenya that they have injected all this money, the 10 billion is talking about, but the hunger per capita in Kenya is more than that in Uganda. You can go and make a research. Now, what these business people are talking about, they are talking about prices, they are talking about rent, they are talking about renting in dollars. Of course, you know, there is no way government in this liberalized economy can say, you people who have houses, they should stop them from people paying rent in dollars. After all, it is a liberalized economy. Now, what happens is that what my colleague was talking about, much money chasing what, of course, the good thing, he's also part of the examples. He was a member of parliament. He knows what happened and how much money he injected in the same economy. Well,
the minister said some money was not approved by parliament.
Yeah, but of course, MPs, when they are campaigning, the money is not approved by, that is a private business. So he can also give us an example of how much he used in order to cause an inflation.
Well, he didn't use government money anyway. Go on.
Now you can see. Now,
go on.
Another thing is talking about printing. Of course, you know, Honorable, in the saturation there was so much counterfeit, but it is the policy of Bank of Uganda anyway to control all those. Then another thing the business people are talking about is these issues of they can even call them ghost traders. You find that people, he comes here as a tourist and the next day is selling chapati. That's what has been complained about. And I'm told, and I know that the minister, while addressing journalists, told them the Minister of Internal Affairs is supposed to contain that. If you came as a tourist, then how can the next day you become a pastor and you put up a shop somewhere? No. So they want to contain all those things. But the things you have mentioned are very, like interest rates.
Yes.
The issues of
high inflation.
High inflation.
A weak shilling.
Of course, I have not disagreed with him on the issues of inflation. This inflation, of course, people, actually what you have also forgotten, Honorable, some of you are hoarding money you keep money, a sack of money at home, because probably you are fearing people to know that you have.
That does not contribute to inflation. What contributes to inflation is money spent in the market.
There is literal money in circulation. You get me? When you are holding, you keep like 500 million in your.
I think you've got the economics wrong. It's the other way around.
It is not the other way around, because that money is not in saturation. It is at your home. You get me? So you will add on, of course, you know the problem. Now, the second thing you are saying, people are part of the problem. Of course, government anywhere else, any question goes to the government. These business people, by the way, I was also asking myself, if the money stabilizes, will they reduce their prices? And me and you, if tomorrow we also said, let us strike and not go to buy anything, will they come to us and negotiate with us? Now, we are talking about Matatus coming to strike also. That is a negotiation. The Utoda must also look into that matter, because what they are saying is that if I pay in the park, from the park to Kamocha, there is another stage, I also pay. From Kamocha to Ntinda, there is another stage, I also pay. So that is, of course, in Utoda also has those challenges. But Edmond, another thing which I want to tell you is about the East African Common Market.
Yes.
You see, we are not living on an island. We are in the East African community. Some of these things